Today is Monday, February 22nd, 2021. President Joe Biden is speaking right now, commemorating the 500,000 people who have died due to COVID-19. Let's go live to the White House. We're going live to the White House.
Our fathers, our sons, our daughters, husbands, wives. We have to fight this together as one people, as the United States of America. That's the only way we're going to beat this virus, I promise you. The only way to spare more pain and more loss, the only way these millstones no longer mark our national mourning, these milestones, I should say, no longer mark our national mourning. Let this not be a story of how far we fell, but of how far we climb back up. We can do this. For in this year of profound loss, we've seen profound courage from all of you on the front lines. I know the stress, the trauma, the grief you carry, but you give us hope. You keep us going. You remind us that we do take care of our own, that we leave nobody behind, and that while we've been humbled, we have never given up. We are America. We can and will do this. In just a few minutes, Jill and I, Kamala and Doug, will hold a moment of silence here in the White House, the people's house, your house. We ask you to join us, to remember so we can heal, to find purpose in the work ahead, to show that there is light in the darkness. This nation will smile again. This nation will know sunny days again. This nation will know joy again. And as we do, we'll remember each person we've lost, the lives they lived, the loved ones they left behind. We will get through this, I promise you. But my heart aches for those of you who are going through it right now. May God bless you all, particularly those who've lost someone. God bless you.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
That was President Joe Biden, of course, speaking at the White House, where he is about to lead a moment of silence.
Our institutions are accepting PPP applications from customers across the country. I know that our institution, even in the first two rounds, we found that Black businesses found us from across the country. We made loans to Black businesses as far away as California and up in New York. Our bank is located in Savannah, Georgia. We're one of the smallest banks in the country, but we really jumped in with both feet to serve Black businesses that weren't getting attention from those larger institutions, and we're doing that now. And you see that if you go to the National Bankers Association website, nationalbankers.org, you can find a list of all of our member institutions and find one that's accepting applications online and ready and willing to serve you.
Ron, one of the issues, the last question for you, one of the issues that, again, people are dealing with is understanding the process. What are y'all doing at the U.S. Black Chambers, Inc. to help people who aren't clear with all these, fill this out, what steps to take, what bank to connect with, what's the right bank, because the people who got it are folks who paid others who knew how to, frankly, I won't say, who knew how to work the system.
Yeah. And I appreciate that And what the U.S. Black Chamber does is we're providing that free information for the business owners across the country. Every Thursday, we have online classes. We're having seminars. We understand that the majority of businesses that failed, it was not because they didn't have good businesses. It's just because they didn't have good information. And so we're here providing it for them. You can find out at usblackchambers.org. Again, usblackchambers.org to find out how you can find out the information to provide you with the PPP that you need.
All right, then. Ron Busby with U.S. Black Chambers, Inc., Robert James with the National Bankers Association. Gentlemen, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Julian, this is one of those things, again, where bureaucrats make decisions, politicians make decisions without really going back to break down, wait a minute, how can we really help those in need? And this was one of the problems. And billions had already gone out of the door before they realized, oops, we got some issues here. And so this focus the next 2 weeks is critically important.
Absolutely, Roland. Part of the challenge is that we have to disaggregate data. What we're seeing people say, well, businesses are in trouble. Well, Black businesses are in a different kind of trouble. Other businesses are. We've lost 40% of our businesses since COVID started. The paperwork burden, I think that Ron Busby referred to, is a paperwork burden that a small business is not equal to meeting. You know, you've got all these pages, all this, that, and the other, and people aren't able to do it. So I think Maxine Waters and many others have lifted up the notion that we have to be race sensitive about this stuff, not race neutral, but race sensitive, because we know that Black businesses have been harder hit. White folks lost about 20% of their businesses, Black folks about 40% of our businesses. That's really catastrophic when we think about the impact that our businesses have on our community. And so what the next couple of weeks are important for the Congressional Black Caucus and others to stand up and say, how can we make sure that some of this money is targeted? And here's the dangerous thing is that white folks don't like targeting. They do not like saying, let's do this for Black people. It's like, let's do it for everybody, kumbaya, kumbaya. But in fact, everybody did not get hit the same way. So I'm very happy that we have this segment, Roland. Happy you have these brothers. And I think it's really important for us to understand how Black business has been hit by COVID and how there is nothing in the system unless we push for it for these businesses to recover.
And Teresa, squeaky wheel gets the most grease. That's the bottom line here. And so having advocates in D.C. certainly made all this possible.
Absolutely. And I thank them every single day because these are the type of conversations that we are looking for our representatives and business associations to actually have on our behalf, because we're not at the White House. We don't, most people don't have the full access and resources and the responsibility that is necessary in order to get us all back to business. And that means the 40% of Black businesses and minority businesses that was lost during this pandemic. So thank you.
Karen, what we're going to be seeing here again, but you also have the communication medium, getting the word out to the people most in need. Look, bottom line is I'm sitting here looking at television here, national media. A lot of their focus really is on the latest thing Trump responded to, also with Biden and COVID. But this is one of those things that could really help our businesses stay afloat. As Julian said, we lost 41%. And folks, keep in mind, prior to COVID, we had 2.6 million Black-owned businesses in America. 2.5 million had one employee. So, when you lose 40%, you're talking about, that means that of the 2.6 million Black-owned businesses that we had, you've lost, folks, 1 million businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that I think about constantly is my parents. My parents are small Black business owners. They've owned restaurants, they've owned retail stores. And now they're in a business where they contract with the government. And I'm very thankful for that because it's one of the few things that hasn't disappeared because of COVID. So as we're going forward, we need to start to think about, the people who own restaurants and bars in our neighborhoods that didn't get any support, didn't get any help, and were told to shut down for months on end. And some of them are now opening and some of them aren't. But the ones who are opening are still making significantly less money and are having trouble keeping the lights on. So I think we really need to focus on being deliberate about targeting Black business owners, large, small, and making sure, some of our Black businesses operate on a very thin margin, and making sure that they have the resources necessary to keep the lights open. I think of Ben's Chili Bowl in DC as one of my favorite restaurants. They have had some trouble over the past couple of months. So even our institutions, our staples in our neighborhood could possibly be gone if we don't get help for them.
And again, Julian, for the people who don't know, or the folks in the back of the room who want to be stuck on stupid, Congress can't say we're going to create a program specifically for these Black businesses. One of the things that they do is use a language such as 20 employees or fewer. And so what the CBC and others understand is, how can you craft language that can really target our community but not use very specific race language?
But Roland, I think that we have to use specific race language.
Oh no, I agree. I agree. But the Supreme Court has look. When you talk about the Croson case, the Supreme Court has also weighed in on that. So I mean, I agree we should, but the question is the difference between can we is illegal.
Well, I think that this is a time in the era of George Floyd for us to begin to push these envelopes about this. We don't experience America the same way.
I agree. But the courts have ruled, though. How do you get around the courts?
Oh, I know. Run, you're the football guy.
No, you can't. You can't get around the courts. So you have to create creative ways to do what we want to do.
You're right. You have to carefully craft the language to say less than 20 employees in a certain zip code, perhaps. With certain kinds of, Maxine Waters is good at this.
Yes.
Straight at this. We can craft the language, but we also have to understand at some point, we're going to have to go back on Croson and say, look, we don't experience America the same way. And so we have to have remedies that are different. When we look at this COVID, we're 3 times as likely to die. 3 times as likely to die. Our life expectancy has gone down, Roland, as you know, by 3 years, while white folks, half a year. Why aren't we at the top of the list for the people who get the vaccine? I ain't worried about it. I'm over 65. But I'm just saying that we're seeing young Black people dying at a rate that young white people aren't. America has to come to grips with the racism that has left us. I think the word that many scholars are using is weathering, that has left us weathered to be more vulnerable. And it's not just more vulnerable from a health perspective, but certainly from an economic perspective. And so, you're absolutely right. The court has said you can't do it, but I'm saying this is a good time to challenge that court again. It's not the right court for us to challenge, but it's a good time for us to lift our voices and say, give Black people a break.
You ain't getting a damn thing through this court, Teresa, not with a 63 majority. This ain't 5-4. This is 6-3.
Exactly. And again, why elections matter. When Trump was in office, he was packing the court. And, Roland, I think you said it very clearly early on in your segments when you said, listen, it's not like, we've lost some legislative priorities, but let's remember what the Republicans did gain. They gained the court. And when you can't change the system of the courts into your favor, these are the issues when it comes up where you have to hide and split African-American language and minorities in order for us to at least get a slice of the pie. These are the type of issues that happen and where we have to take election and voting very seriously, but also critically.
Absolutely. Folks, let's now go to a huge story that dropped yesterday. First of all, yesterday was the 56th anniversary of the assassination of Malcolm X. And what was amazing yesterday was when lawyers came together and revealed what they called new evidence of a conspiracy perpetrated by the NYPD and the FBI to assassinate the civil rights activist in Harlem. The family of Ray Wood, a Black man who worked as an undercover police officer in the 1960s, and their attorney now claim Wood wrote a letter on his deathbed confessing the NYPD and the FBI conspired to kill Malcolm X. Wood's cousin, Reginald Wood Jr., read the letter during Saturday's press briefing in Manhattan.
This is the original letter that was sent to my father on February 9th of 2011. I'm going to read a copy. I preserved it for the district attorney and whoever needs this for the court case to be able to exonerate the people that Ray was concerned that had been convicted because of his actions. It's dated January 25th, 2011. I, Raymond A. Wood, being of sound mind and body, wish to confess the following. I was a black New York City undercover police officer from April 1964 through May of 1971. I participated in actions that in hindsight were deplorable and detrimental to the advancement of my own black people. My actions on behalf of the New York City Police Department, bossy, were done under duress and fear that if I did not follow the orders of my handlers, I could face detrimental consequences. Presently, I am aging with failing health. Recently, I have learned of the death of Mr. Thomas Johnson and are deeply concerned that with my death, his family will not be able to exonerate him after being wrongfully convicted in the killing of Malcolm X. The facts are as follows. April 17, 1964, I was hired by the New York City Police Department. Without training, I was immediately assigned to the Bossy Investigation Unit. After witnessing repeated brutality at the hands of my coworkers, in parentheses, police, I tried to resign. Instead, I was threatened with arrest by penning marijuana and alcohol trafficking charges on me if I did not follow through with the assignments. Under the direction of my handlers, I was told to encourage leaders and members of the civil rights groups to commit felonious acts. The Statue of Liberty bombing idea was created by my supervisor/handler. Using surveillance, the agency learned that Bo and Saeed were key players in Malcolm X's crowd control security detail. It was my assignment to draw the two men into a felonious federal crime so that they could be arrested by the FBI and kept away from managing Malcolm X's Autobahn ballroom door security on February 21st, 1965. On February 16th, 1965, the Statue of Liberty plot was carried out and the two men were arrested just days before the assassination of Malcolm. At that time, I was not aware that Malcolm X was the target. On February 21st, 1965, I was ordered to be at the Audubon Ballroom, where I was identified by witnesses while leaving the scene. Thomas Johnson was later arrested and wrongfully convicted to protect my cover and the secrets of the FBI and the NYPD. I had placed my full confession into the care of my cousin, Reginald Wood, Jr. I have requested this information be held until after I have passed away. It is my hope that this information is received with the understanding that I have carried these secrets with a heavy heart and remorsefully regret my participation in this matter. Raymond A. Wood.
Joining us now is Baba Zach Kondo, author of Conspiracies, Unraveling the Assassination of Malcolm X. Baba, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
I'm glad to be here.
First and foremost, got to get your reaction to that news conference on Saturday where he read that letter from an NYPD undercover police officer.
Yeah, well, first off, it's not any new information. What I think is good about it, though, is it's basically demonstrating once again the role that organizations outside of the Nation of Islam, my book basically argues that three forces killed Malcolm X. The Nation of Islam were the trigger people, the NYPD, which is what Woods represents, and then the FBI, who helped to pretty much organize everything. What this revelation basically shows is that the, excuse me, what this thing shows is once again the significant role that the FBI and the NYPD played. And let me identify something that didn't come out in this thing. Woods was a member of a secret unit of the NYPD known as BALSI, the Bureau of Special Services and Investigation. The best way to understand them is that they basically represented a counterintelligence apparatus, like a miniature FBI is what BALSI basically represented. And their job was to infiltrate organizations. If you're familiar with the counterintelligence program, most of your listeners are. BALSI was simply a city version of the counterintelligence program. So they were secretive. And this guy Woods, one point that we want to make is that an African person cannot infiltrate the Ku Klux Klan. So when a Woods was recruited, the only way that they could use him, that a BALSI could use him, was against our own people. And the problem that I had listening to that news conference yesterday was that, first off, Woods' nephew was making excuses for him. He chose to be a traitor for Malcolm. He chose to be a traitor for our people. And him talking about, they were going to whitemail him and they arrested him and all that. All of that is part of the game. You either choose to be a man and to basically support your people, or you choose to betray your people. That guy chose to betray our people.
And this, of course, in many ways, people now seeing the story of William O'Neill, who did the exact same thing to Fred Hampton, where the FBI, in conjunction with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, killed Fred Hampton. And when people talk about the dissension, when you talk about even what took place within the Nation of Islam, the anger towards Malcolm X, we also cannot deny the reality of the FBI having people on the inside stirring that dissension up. We saw the exact same thing in other groups. The reality is when Dr. King was killed, one of the folks who was on that balcony leaning over his body was somebody who was an undercover CIA operative. So again, American forces saw Black liberation, Black freedom as the #1 threat to this country, and they chose to say, we're going to dismantle it by cutting the head off.
Exactly. And one thing that we also must always remember, the Church Committee was a congressional committee that took place in the mid-1970s, 1975, and they investigated the activities of the FBI and the activities of the CIA. And one of the things that came out of that, and this is not, Roland Martin talking or Baba Zach Kondo talking, this is what the committee found. It found that when it came to African people, the most violent techniques were accepted. And that meant anywhere from assassination to wrongly imprisoning people to beating people, shooting people in broad daylight. Just to put this in some context, in broad daylight one day in the late 1960s, at the Los Angeles branch of the Black Panther Party, the FBI had a raid, and they sent carloads of their people. They fired over 1,000 bullets into the Central Avenue headquarters of the Black Panther Party of Los Angeles. Over 1,000 bullets. And luckily, because we had a brother there by the name of Geronimo Pratt, he had like 5 minutes to get everything together. They got a phone call or something, and he was able to fortify it. But I'm saying 1,000 bullets into one room, hoping to kill as many Panthers as they could. Lucky for us, there were a couple injuries, but nobody was killed.
The thing that, first of all, where do you think, with this letter being read, where does this go from here? And for people who have not, they may have read stories and stuff along those lines, should there be a push for folks to push President Joe Biden to declassify any and all documents related to COINTELPRO, Malcolm X, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., any other folks during that particular era? Has everything that they have, has it all been released, or is it still a lot of redacted information?
Right. No, it's still, put it this way. When I was doing my research on Malcolm X, my book was published in 1993, and it's being revised right now. But at the time that I did my research, I had a conversation one time with this young brother who worked in the reading room of the FBI, because, you had to go there to do the research. And he told me something very interesting. The King file at that particular time, the headquarters file, was 500,000 pages. He told me that they had destroyed at least that number, that people like me and you will never see. And because this is an eternal type of thing, there's no accountability. Now, here's the thing, though. I hear what you're saying in reference to releasing the documents, but oftentimes the most important documents, the smoking gun documents that the average person needs to see, those documents in most cases will never see the light of day.
Of course. Because
the FBI and other intelligence apparatus, they have that, they have that freedom, and they justify it under the national security. And that's a big umbrella.
Well, plus we also know that when J. Edgar Hoover died, he gave instructions for his secretary to basically corral and gather all of those secret files. We don't know what happened to them. We don't know if they're stored somewhere. We don't know if he instructed her to destroy them. But we know that when Justice Department leaders went to his home and office, they found nothing.
Right. One thing that we do know, though, he had tens of thousands of documents in this warehouse. And per his will, his secretary, a woman by the name of Helen Grundy, if memory serves me, she made a phone call. Some trucks pulled up maybe 30, 40 minutes later at this warehouse. They took out some documents, and then accidentally they burnt down the facility with the rest of them in there. So there were certain documents he apparently wanted preserved, and the rest of them went up in flames. Real shocker, huh?
Nah, no shock at all. What happens next? Do you think this changes anything? Do you think anything comes about from this revelation or the reading of this letter?
Right. You know what? I think what it does, because remember, supposedly Cyrus Vance, the DA of Manhattan, is supposed to be looking into investigating the possibility of reopening, the trial of, the case that sent two innocent men, Butler and Johnson, to prison. Now, I'll be honest, I've been in contact with them. They had asked for a copy of my book. I haven't heard anything from them, but I guess you could say that I wouldn't hold my breath. I think the best thing that is likely to happen, right now is that public opinion will be piqued, people will become interested, and depending on what type of a thrust, particularly we African people give, will dictate how far. But I think we would be naive to think that there's going to be any movement from a legal standpoint unless we organize and pressure and threaten and demand. So if anything is going to happen through the system, and you're talking to a pessimist because this system, has never had our best interest at heart. And keep this in mind. Think about what is the repercussion here. If they find, say they open up a trial and the trial proves that there was some government complicity in Malcolm's assassination. Do we really think that the FBI or the courts are going to, take that real serious? And see, that's my problem, as a, having studied this, this government as long as I have, but it doesn't mean that it can't happen. So I guess you could say I'm probably, I'm a modified optimist that maybe something can happen to this, but I still say we should push it. Let's not, I like what the daughters are doing right now, and use whatever vehicles, whatever weapons, whatever resources that they can use, that we can use to, bring attention and then open this up. And then we roll the dice.
Baba Zach Kondo, we surely appreciate it, sir. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you. It was an honor.
I want to go to my panel here. Juliana, let's start with you. Again, the fact that 56 years later, we are still talking about this. We're still hearing things. People really have to understand the depths of how this country, its top police departments, the FBI, how they despised black leadership and did everything they could to destroy leaders like Malcolm X, Dr. King, Fred Hampton, and others.
Roland, what I got from Brother Baba is the notion of what has been buried. We can go back. We can look at Wilmington, North Carolina in 1896. We still don't have the whole story there. Tulsa, we have more information than we thought we had, but we still don't have the whole story there. And so the assassination of Malcolm X, the killing of Medgar Evers, we still don't have the whole story. If Brother Biden wants to do the right thing, we'll unseal some of these records and let us see it. There's nothing we can do about it, but we need to know. We need to know why our leaders were assassinated. We know why, but we need to know who, what, when, where, and why. And we need to know this is why reparations are so important. We need to understand the damage that has been done to our community. When I think about the daughters, about Quabila, Atala, and all of them who I know, and I think about the pain that they've had to deal with all their lives, but also now to hear more, I think about the, the resolution that they must have of the closure to have this stuff put out there. So I just feel like this is one step in the right direction, but it's just one step. And I don't know what this little underground FBI fellow was doing. And he has very little credibility, but he has enough credibility for us to think about what he's saying and what it means. We need to know how these people have damaged our community.
Teresa. Teresa, you keep hitting. Teresa, stop hitting the mute button, please. Yes, you're on mute.
Oh my goodness.
Keep talking. All right, control room, what's going on? Karen, I'm going to go to you.
I'll say something. Police bomb an entire block. So it doesn't surprise me that our government was involved in killing Malcolm X or Martin Luther King. It's pretty much par for the course. Local governments have been involved in killing Black leaders. The national government has been involved in killing Black leaders. It just seems to be what they do. Whenever one of us gets too powerful, they try to shoot us.
All right, Teresa, we have you now?
Yes, I'm here.
Now we have you. Just keep hitting that doggone mute button, but go on ahead.
To be determined. So I think there's some unfounded revelations, that it comes to time when the, people.
Oh my God. I got to control my facial expressions.
Okay. All right, Gary. All right. I think that,
Teresa, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, so I think there's an opportunity here where there will be a lot of people who were, working in the past, government entities who now, feel the effects of the George Floyds. Are starting to see the trickle down. I think we'll probably start to see a lot of those who were retired, those who are coming out of hiding, and they just need to get it off their chest in order for change to happen. I'm not shocked, but I am more so looking forward to more dialogues and more discussions and more revelations of this, because I do think, the time is now more than ever to really just to put it out there, to make it known that these accusations and the assassinations that happened to our Black leaders who helped shape American culture for Black people do need their day of justice. And honestly, I just want to be alive when that day happens.
Absolutely. All right, folks, got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll have more on Roland Martin Unfiltered. One of the things we'll also talk to is the author of a book, his time on 60 Minutes, shared some really interesting thoughts about for folks in television news. And so lots of stuff we want to talk about. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered. For Black Americans,
right,
because of slavery, because of the complete destroying of the past, there really is no direct connection to various African countries.
Right.
But the reality is for Latinos, and even if you use that phrase, first of all, I'm from Texas. So in Texas, Hispanics is used. Other parts of the country, they say, no, call me Latino. Mm-hmm. Other folks, call me Chicano. And so you also sort of have that going on. There's a connection with country as well. Right. And so if you're from Mexico, if you're from Colombia, if you're from any other particular country, it's, yeah, I'm here, but I'm also from there. As opposed to, no. This is my country. I'm involved in everything here. I think that's also something that's also at play.
It is at play, and it's unfortunate because it happens even when we're not talking about politics. I think that Latinos, the word, it's very divided because we all have this allegiance to this other place that we came from. But I believe that that's not helping us. That's not unifying the country. We need to come together and understand that this is where you're raising your kids. This is where you're paying taxes. This is where you're living. This is your country. This is where it matters.
Hi, I'm El DeBarge.
Hey, yo, Peace World. What's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Charges in Plano, Texas have been dropped against an 18-year-old Black man who spent a night in jail after he was strangely arrested for walking in the street. Officers responded to a call that a Black male wearing a short-sleeved shirt was stumbling along the road in icy conditions. They were dispatched to do a welfare check, but ended up following Rodney Reese, a high school student on his way home from work. Officers followed Reese for 2 minutes and 17 seconds before they arrested him on a pedestrian in the roadway charge. Here is the body cam footage.
Dude, stop. We're trying to help you.
Hey, man. Whoop. You trying to get home? Are you trying to get home? You sure? You need a ride somewhere? Hey, look, we just want to make sure you're all right. We just want to make sure you're all right. bro. Come here. Sir, you need to talk to us, okay? Sir.
I'm good, bro.
Can you calm down? All right? Sir.
Don't touch me.
Sir, look, we just want to talk to you. All right?
Good. I'm on the way home. I'm straight.
Okay.
Where the fuck I'm going?
Okay, but you're walking in the middle of the road.
All right. I understand that. My bad. I'm not in the middle of it. So I want.
We just trying to figure out where you're going.
Home. I just said that. Oh, you okay, dude?
Watch out, man.
Where's home at?
Do you want us to just give you a ride?
No, I'm good. I do this every night, literally. I'm straight.
Okay. You ain't cold or nothing?
No.
With that cheese shirt on?
I said that. I'm good.
What's your name, man?
Nah.
Huh? You don't know? Can you just stop and talk to us for a minute? Do you mind? Do you mind just talking to us for a minute? Just talk to us for a minute. Just talk to us for a minute.
I ain't gonna put my hand on a female. Please don't touch me.
Okay. I'm just trying to get your attention, okay? We're just trying to make sure you're okay.
Don't touch
We're trying to
me.
make sure you're okay. We're trying to make sure you're okay. Sir?
No, what?
We're trying.
No, what?
We're doing an investigation.
I don't care. I'm going home.
You were officially detained.
No.
Yes, yes you are.
Bro, stop.
Just relax.
Just relax, all right?
Just relax.
We're just trying to talk to you.
I got an anger problem. Please get off me. No.
Stop.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to touch you.
Yeah, you didn't. Stop. Put your hands behind your back now. You are not free to go.
Wow.
The next thing you do is going to be get a charge right now.
For what?
Because you're pushing on an officer.
I'm not pushing. How am I pushing on you?
You're actually resisting, dude. It's resisting arrest or detention. Give us the channel.
Please just let me go.
No.
My house is literally right there.
Can you just tell us the address?
Wait.
Just relax, dude.
Put a contact.
I'm trying to...
Please just let me go.
Wow, you're really making this worse right now.
We're trying
Honestly.
to do that.
Okay, he's about to... All right.
It's not back here.
This is why I did.
Dude, just stop.
Stop
resisting.
Just let me go. Let me go.
Stop.
Let me go.
Stop resisting.
Bro, first thing. Bro, just let me go.
Just relax.
Bro.
Give us.
What the fuck is wrong with you? You got me fucked up.
Get on the ground, dude. Just get on the ground. Stop resisting.
You want me to get on this snow after y'all was worried about me? Really?
You're causing this problem right now.
This never had to go this way, man.
I got you. Go ahead. Sorry, dude.
Yeah.
Just relax this arm.
Relax your arms, okay? Just relax your arms. What's your name?
Let go. I'm gonna take care of your phone, dude.
What's your name? Can you at least tell me your first name?
No, I'm good.
Tell me your first name.
I'm good.
We honestly were just trying to check on you.
That's cool.
Okay.
I said I'm
First
good.
of all, you were in the roadway, which is a
Right.
safety hazard, and you're not supposed to be in the roadway.
And offense.
All right?
You're not at liberty to move around.
Bro.
Okay,
Just
I
relax.
thought you was turning me around. Why are you trying to put me on the ground for?
Just relax.
moving around.
Just relax.
You're not at liberty to move
Where do
around.
you live?
I can do what the fuck I want to.
Where do you live?
Actually, right now you can.
Yes, I can.
Where do you live? Where do you live?
All right. If he's not gonna cooperate,
He's going in the car.
popping him in the back of the car.
Come on, just walk this way.
You got a walker?
Stop right here. Stop right here. Face the car for me. Spread your feet out.
Sorry.
have any weapons on you like that?
Now, folks, this took place, again, last week in Plano, Texas, which is located just north of Dallas. Now, the Plano Police Department posted this video on their page, their Facebook page. Immediately were condemned by a significant number of people. Rodney Reese, high school student who worked at Walmart, okay, walking home. Now, officers, they followed him because they claimed this report of a man stumbling in the street. Plano's police chief said the arrest was not consistent with the reason officers were called. The department will determine whether an internal investigation is warranted. This is the kind of nonsense that we see, Kieran, that is crazy. If you examine the video, the brother's trying not. He's trying not. First of all, that's wrong. It was body camera footage, not dash cam footage. Here's the crazy part, y'all. The body camera footage is shocking. He's trying not to engage them. He's trying not to deal with them because he just wants to go home. Second of all, he doesn't have to give them his information. This is why Colin Kaepernick has his Know Your Rights camps. He doesn't have to. Absolutely crazy.
So the big problem that I see with what happened is that the police in Plano are harassing young Black people in what is one of the fastest growing suburbs in the state of Texas. You have people moving from all over the country into Texas, and to harass Black people is just appalling. I've lost friends to this type of gun violence or this type of violence from police. I had a friend who was shot 5 times in the city of Pittsburgh. He managed to survive. But this is just par for the course, not just in Texas, but around the country. I know you see a lot of really racist incidents in Texas regarding hair, especially. I remember the young man from outside of Houston who was suspended from school for his dreadlocks. This type of harassment of young Black people is just completely uncalled for by local governments in Texas.
The thing here, Teresa, when watching this body camera footage, is that he just wants to be left alone. Here's the deal. I know it's cold. I get it. I see that it's snowing. But if somebody doesn't want to be bothered by the cops, keep walking. Do you need a ride home? Nope, I'm good. I do this every night. He clearly wasn't bothered by the cold weather. He was fine, jeans and a shirt. Hey, leave me alone. Okay? Hey, they offered us public assistance. He said no. No, they chose to keep pursuing him and continue to pursue him. And again, when he declined to tell them his address and his name, so you're not going to tell us. He doesn't have to. Right. He was trying to avoid what eventually happened. Him being detained, cuffed, taken to jail, and spend a night in jail.
Absolutely. And this high school, Black man, just came from a hard days of work. And, obviously there's snow on the ground, so he didn't go through bus transportation, didn't need a ride. He's probably like, look, I'm 2 to 3 blocks from my home. I just want to get there. And I think, countless times, most of us just want to get to our destination without being disturbed, right? We're already fighting, especially if he's working at Walmart. He's definitely not making $15 an hour. So I'm sure he's already probably frustrated about that. But the other portion is he's literally just trying to avoid confrontation and honestly probably just not trying to get shot. I think many times we have seen Black men talking to the police and then it goes left. So I think he decided to do the opposite. I'm glad he's still alive. I'm glad he can, use this we can all absolutely use this as an example of non-confrontational from us. And yet we're still being confronted with aggression and with, the need for them to feel like, hey, let us help you. Like, it's okay to help when we ask you for assistance. But again, we don't have to respond. You have to know your rights. He knew his rights. I'm grateful for the body cam footage, but it's interesting to me that the Plato Police Department thought they were in the right to actually, with this type of interaction with him, for them to actually post and see, this is what happens when you don't cooperate with the police. No, what it actually shows, and I think the video was very clear, is this is what happens when you try to avoid confrontation with the police, and yet you still get put in the paddy wagon.
It just, Juliana, it's just, he's not trying to engage them. He's not trying to anger them. I'm good, no problem. Ma'am, I don't want to touch a woman. I don't want to strike a police officer. Please don't touch me. All of that. Yet with all of that, he still gets arrested. He still gets put in the car. Now, and this is the thing that white folks don't understand. He is now saddled with the trauma for the rest of his life of that experience. When all he was trying to do was a black man walking home, trying to get home from Walmart, through the snow.
Teresa has it completely right. This man is just minding his business. Literally, all he's doing is minding his business. He didn't ask for help. He didn't need any help. This is the crux of white supremacy, is that you can put yourself in my space and decide what I need, and then when I refuse it, decide that you are going to exert your white supremacist power. This brother, if you look at we looked at the body cam, car cam, whatever, he's literally minding his business. There's nothing illegal about walking in the snow in a t-shirt. That's your business. Why in the you-know-what are these people insistent on engaging him and harassing him? That's a question. And the answer is, anytime a black person is walking down the street, there are some white folks who feel that they have the right to engage them and harass them. This, you've heard me talk before, Roland, about my nephews. I have one who is 37 and one who is 35, and I adore them, and they're young black men. They're tall, they're buff, and every morning I get up and pray that they don't have any drama. And they do have drama because they get stopped here, stopped there, for the same kind of stuff. And it breaks my heart to see the ways that their energy gets broken down by this kind of crap. And we really, as Teresa, what was wrong with these people? They're going to post this and say, oh, you have to obey the police? No. You police have to act like you have some good, you-know-what sense.
Again, charges dropped, and frankly, I hope he sues. And the police chief should fire those officers. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Folks, let's go to California, where a newly released video shows a deadly confrontation between sheriff's deputies and a homeless man in San Clemente, California, in September. In the video, 2 Orange County sheriff's deputies who were in patrol assigned to the homeless outreach team they heard deciding whether to confront 42-year-old Kurt Reinhold. One deputy is heard saying, quote, "Watch this, he's going to jaywalk." One of the deputies then asked Reinhold, "Are you going to stop, or are we going to have to make you stop?" Reinhold responds, "Jaywalking here? That's ridiculous." Video captured by bystanders shows the confrontation escalate quickly. Reinhold then says, "What is your problem? Why are you touching me?" Watch this.
There we go. You hit me, dude. It's control, man. I don't know. It is. It's like guy just stop in the middle. Don't make case law. Gabriel, not case law. We're gonna identify him, huh? We're gonna be quite close. Find it. Ready? How you doing? How you doing?
As I said, video captured by bystanders shows the confrontation escalate quickly. Ryan Hull says, "What is your problem? Why are you touching me?" Moments later, both deputies tackle Ryan Hull. One of the deputies shouts that Ryan Hull had his gun. Surveillance video appears to show Ryan Hull's hand near one of the deputies' holsters. A deputy then fired 2 shots, killing Ryan Hull. At this time, the Sheriff's Department has only responded by releasing a pre-recorded video stating that it is withholding judgment until all facts are known and the investigations are complete. Again, Julian, what's crazy here is this started because he was jaywalking.
This started.
He's dead. He's now dead. But it started supposedly for jaywalking.
It started because these police officers have an axe to grind against people. It started because they were exerting their power, their ability to mess with anybody. This man wasn't bothering anybody. Yes, he was jaywalking, but hell, we live in D.C., Roland. How many days of the week do you jaywalk? Or me. That's not a crime that has a death penalty. What we have here are out-of-control police officers, and I'm glad that you're raising this up because we keep hearing these stories and people say, oh, yeah, but the police are okay. Some of them, but many of them are essentially harassing people, and they're exerting their power, and this is the issue. It's power. They're exerting their power. When you go back to the beginning, he's jaywalking. Looks like they're almost stalking him. This is absurd.
It is just, again, if you're sitting here, if you're a police officer, Kieran, and if you see somebody doing something, if you see wrongdoing happen, I get it. But jaywalking.
Yep.
The level of selective enforcement is just crazy to me. I mean, you see somebody who is peaceful and, you just decide to roll up on them and harass them and then kill them. It goes back to the same thing that I said before about the incident in Plano. You just have a level of government harassment of Black people that a lot of times ends in death. And I really think we need to call upon the Biden administration to do something about this epidemic of Black people, Black men especially, being killed. So it's disgusting that we continue to have to go through this. And I'm glad I didn't have to watch another Black man get killed. I know it happened, and I'm so sorry that it did, and feel for his family. But it's just to the point now where it seems like every other day we're watching another video of another Black person being killed, and it's just terrible. Look at that face. It's so sad.
I mean, that brother, he's gone, Teresa, because you got cops who are they just do what they do. And this is the crazy stuff here. You look at the Plano, the perfect example. That brother could be dead in Plano. That's how things escalate and Black men end up getting killed.
Yeah, so these videos are in strict contrast, but also the same. So in the one hand, you have the homeless man who, is literally walking across the street, and, it's not a death sentence. It should be actually what it's constituted as is a ticket. But it's not warranted for a gun to be drawn and shots to be fired and your life is to be lost. So it's very interesting circumstances. And again, this is the time where, it's just too many times we're all having these conversations about justice and what does criminal justice reform looks like. It looks very clearly if we start to, start putting our powers legislatively and judicially into action. So what does that mean? That means we need to, escalate and increase and decrease the police budget, understanding that, these people are using their powers to get away with really murder, and also put into place some of the reforms that has been repeatedly stated over and over. And I think if we start doing that, we can then start to see results. But right now, it just seems like it's on a standstill, and thus these policemen and deputy sheriffs are having a free-for-all on Black lives.
It is certainly sad, sad, sad. Speaking of sad, folks, many people were shocked today to find out the death of Lawrence Otis Graham. Of course, the New York Times selling book author, passed away on Friday at the age of 59. Of course, he's a lawyer and an activist. At this time, no one knows exactly how he passed away. He was known for exposing racial discrimination. He's also an acclaimed author who published 14 best-selling books, one of which titled Member of the Club. He detailed his undercover experience as a country club worker at an all-white Greenwich country club in the early 1990s. Graham was also a lawyer who practiced corporate and real estate law at Cuddy & Fetter, a Manhattan law firm, and was a contributing editor at U.S. News & World Report. He also was a former adjunct professor at Fordham University, where he taught African American studies and American government. A public viewing for Graham is going to be held Friday at Lee's Funeral Home in White Plains, New York. Julian, it's interesting here when you talk about the passing of Lawrence Otis Graham. Man, so many people ripped him when he did his book. He did his book about the first black senator, him and his wife, of course, called A Socialite. His book dealing with the black elite as well. People were like, oh my goodness, Lawrence Otis Graham was, it was all about the elite. But here's the deal: he was writing about actual black people. So I mean, you can be mad, upset. I remember having him on my radio show when he was promoting the book, WVON. But the reality is, that was also black people. This notion that you didn't have black people who lived that life, it was just wrong.
No, absolutely. I interviewed him years ago, and we actually hung out a couple of times. He came to Washington, and I took him to a couple of parties. He was a good guy. He was really smart. He was classist, but, many of us in these positions are. We don't want to admit it, but we actually are. And he got the ways, what I liked about him the most is that he took the black experience from where he was, and he wasn't born bougie, but he got bougie. And he took that and talked about it. And a member of the club, he really talked about it. One of my favorite and most funny conversations with him was about his nose job. And he talked about how he had been encouraged to get a nose job because his nose was too Negro. And I thought he was cute, nose job or not, but we talked about it on the air about, why did you do that? So he was really experimenting with his authentic self and sharing his authentic energy. And I didn't know he had been ill. We had been in touch in a couple of years, but I'm sorry to hear that he passed. And I think that people who have anything to say about him should just go back and look at some of his work. Elegantly written, very insightful, and just really right on time.
Again, the book that really set it out was a Member of the Club, Reflections on Life in a Racially Polarized World. First of all, he wrote an article for New York Magazine where he detailed Teresa going undercover as a waiter at a country club, making $7 an hour and writing about all the stuff that white folks talked about at that country club. Man, that certainly stirred a lot of stuff up. The book I was talking about I have this book, and it's an amazing book. It is called The True Story. Go to my iPad, please. The True Story of America's First Black Dynasty, The Senator and the Socialite. That was really an absolutely just fabulous book that he was writing about. And then, of course, Our Kind of People was another book. I'm going to show you the book cover in just a second, folks. If So that's a socialite there. Let me show you Our Kind of People. That book detailed. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull the cover up. Inside America's Black Upper Class by Lawrence, and of course that did very well. And that was the thing, Teresa. I never understood people being pissed off because he wrote about bougie black people as if you ain't got bougie white people. See, I think if we really want to go there, I think we need to confront the reality that there are too many black people who have defined blackness based upon public housing complexes, growing up without a daddy, and being broke. If we really just want to go ahead and go there, okay? Because you know what? It's a whole bunch of rich white people and some broke-ass white people. But this whole notion that to be black is defined by one thing, that's what he wrote about. Now, you can be upset with that, but that's real.
Yeah. And I think he gave, that was the perspective that I, one I enjoyed, because part of it is, if you read his books, you start to understand and you start to look at your neighbor and your colleague, and you're like, you could be a part of that socialite, that black elite club, right? Because it's little instances, and it's nothing wrong with being in the black elite, but just don't lose yourself when you're a part of that society. Don't forget where you come from. Don't forget to pull others up so they can also be in the club. So the percentage in that population also increases. But also we just need to be very cognitive. And that's where I think from my understanding, that's where I got from his books, is that we just, as black people, just need to be real cognitive of who we are, the arena that we're in, and how we conduct ourselves. Because society is going to tell us that we should act a certain way as being black, but I think it also tells us in his books that if we show ourselves and give ourselves, in terms of like our education and our status, we will also, show a different type of African American that exists to the white man, and hopefully they'll allow us in their society.
I was reading some of the comments, people remarking about his passing today, and there were people who were like, "Oh my God, is this, that, and the other," and it always struck me as crazy when people, oh my goodness, he's just wrong. He's just, how dare he? I don't like how he talks, and all that sort of stuff. His wife. Pamela Graham, she also former president and CEO at CNBC, and he's certainly survived by his wife, his children, and other family members as well. But again, I just think that if I could really just think of something, I think some black people need to grow the hell up and get the hell out of their own circle and realize that there are black people of all sorts of classes. There are black people who are light-skinned, dark-skinned, black people who grew up with, it's just like this whole idea as if it's a badge of honor to grow up with a single mama. Well, guess what? That's bullshit. I grew up with a mama and a daddy who's still married, who will be married for 54 years in June. Okay? And so I just think that we have to be willing sometimes to check folks on how we define blackness.
I agree.
Well, we have to own.
Hold on one second. Kieran, go ahead.
So I'm a black man who grew up in a two-parent household. My parents will be married 33 years in April. So I get exactly where you're coming from, Roland, and I really do think we need to normalize black people passing things down to their children, estate planning, black people having wealth, and black people who, raise their kids in two-parent households and possibly send them to private school like my parents did. I think the more that we vilify and demonize black folks for succeeding, the less likely others will be to succeed and to strive hard, because they will see that, they're not accepted in most black spaces because they have now. So I think we need to be inclusive in the black community and make sure that we include our bougie friends. and make sure that we try to represent everybody in the Black community, because we all share one experience. Because no matter what, the color of our skin never changes. I don't care how much money you make.
Yeah, but it's just, but look, we live in different worlds. I see somebody go, look at Clarence Thomas, all kinds of black folks. What is Roland on? Easy. I'm on Blackness. Guess what? There are black people like Clarence Thomas. Wow. There are black conservatives. Yes. There are black people who marry white people. Yep, men and women. There are black people who grow up in middle-class neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods, rich neighborhoods, suburbs, cities, rural America. There are black people who go to HBCUs and black people who go to PWIs. Black people go to community colleges, black people who don't even go to college. Guess what? There are black people who do all sorts of things. The problem is when we somehow define it as solely this. Oh my God, you're out of the norm. No, actually you aren't. You're not. I just think that even now, what we're doing is we sort of have this litmus test for black people, and then what happens is if somebody black actually moves out, ooh, who you think you are? Easy, a mover.
Roland,
I'm a homeowner. Okay, I just think that. I mean, I just think that again. It really bothers me when we place these limitations on blackness, and then we go, we descended from kings and queens. Oh, so then if you black, you own a mansion, now it's a problem? Julian, go ahead.
I think that I think this is a really important conversation around the issues of dimensions of blackness. I think it's important for us to understand our heterogeneity as opposed to our homogeneity. In other words, we are different. We have different lives. As you say, we've been raised different ways. Everybody did not have a single mama and an absent daddy. Everybody did not grow up on food stamps. And some of the people who did do that actually transcended that. So I think it's really important to deal with that. But I think the other importance here is to not, Roland, to talk about what divides us, but what unites us. And in some cases, there's not a whole hell of a lot that does unite us. And we need to deal with that as well. We talk about a black community, but what is a black community? What does it mean? How do we come together? We are, we're connected by pain. We're connected by discrimination. We're connected by what they did to us. And we have to really transcend that to talk about what makes us stronger. I think about people like Mary McLeod Bethune, who started the National Council of Negro Women in 1935 in the middle of a depression. And NCNW was not all bougie, not all working class.